Hey guys, welcome to another installment of Harry Potter Theory. Like I've done in the past for Voldemort, Snape and McGonagall, I'm going to be listing Dumbledore's top 5 most powerful spells and abilities. First things first, Dumbledore is undoubtedly the most powerful wizard to have ever lived, comparable only to Voldemort and possibly Grindelwald. We'll have to wait and see how their duel ends up to confirm this. But despite being intensely powerful, Dumbledore was also known for being all too modest when it came to his magical prowess. In fact, in the first book, there is even a moment where it's partially suggested that Dumbledore is in fact definitively the most powerful sorcerer of all time, or at least that he possessed the inherent capability to be the most powerful if he so desired. McGonagall says to Dumbledore, "But you're different. Everyone knows you're the only one you know." "Oh, all right," Voldemort was frightened of. "You flatter me," said Dumbledore calmly. "Voldemort had powers I will never have." To which McGonagall replies, "Only because you're too, noble to use them." What this tells us is that Dumbledore has a higher overall power threshold than Voldemort, and in the book events of the Ministry Atrium duel, Dumbledore clearly walks all over Voldemort. This is shown a little bit differently in the movie. However, it's worth mentioning that Dumbledore did possess the Elder Wand at that time, which gave him a substantial edge. And while Dumbledore is more powerful than Voldemort, it's hard to imagine how powerful he could have been if he too had plunged into the world of dark magic. Voldemort's level of power was achieved by any means possible, with no exceptions. His pursuit of power was filled with ignorance, showing disregard for the consequences of the pursuit of dark magic. He delved further into the darkness than anyone before him, and became powerful because of it, but perhaps at too great a cost. In the pursuit of power, he lost himself. However, even though he plunged himself into magic as much as possible, Voldemort at no point in the books or films appears to exhibit magical ability that far exceeds or outweighs Dumbledore. Dumbledore, while staying on a relatively light path, with the exception of his younger years, still reached new heights when it came to magical ability. While at school, Dumbledore's magical abilities consistently turned heads, particularly his skills surrounding charms and transfiguration. He also did exceptionally well on his newts, and Griselda Marchbanks, a professor working for the Wizarding Examinations Authority, remarked that Albus was able to do things with the wand that she had never seen before. In addition to being a charms and transfiguration master, Dumbledore was also an expert practitioner of elemental magic. In his duel against Voldemort in the Ministry Atrium, we see his elemental expertise shine through. However, I think that it would be a safe bet to say that there truly isn't a subject or area of magic where Dumbledore is lacking. He is truly a master of transfiguration, charms, potions, elemental magic, occlumency, and more. He is the exception to the phrase, "Jack of all trades, master of none," as he was a master of all. Starting at the top of the list, it's Accio. Just kidding. Number 5. Silent Apparition. The ability to apparate is powerful magic, and difficult to achieve, but it is by no means unique to Dumbledore. However, what would be considered extreme mastery of apparition is the ability to apparate silently. The only other known wizard to achieve equal mastery of this ability is Dumbledore's dark rival, Voldemort. A silent apparition is the exact same as regular apparition, with the exception that it is exceedingly quiet. The ability to apparate is of course a means of transportation in the wizarding world, allowing you to instantly transport or teleport to a desired location. The ability to travel anywhere in an instant without making a sound is a truly invaluable and powerful ability, earning its place on this list. Number 4. Occlumency. Occlumency is the practice of magically closing one's mind against legilimency, which involves navigating through people's minds to access their thoughts and feelings, sometimes even influencing them. Like Lord Voldemort, Dumbledore is a master occlumens and legilimens, but because of his nature, he is far more likely to primarily use the former. At the basic level, an occlumens in the event of a mind infiltration will simply clear their mind so that it is blank and empty. This ability gets far more advanced when the occlumens changes their thought patterns in order to confuse the legilimens, creating faux memories and a contrived mentality that is intended to deceive the legilimens. Occlumency is considered to be a rare and difficult skill, and Dumbledore is probably one of the best at it, given that infiltrating his mind was seemingly never even an option for Voldemort. Number 3. Expecto Patronum, the Disillusionment Charm, and charms in general. Dumbledore is a master of charms, and uses them almost excessively throughout the books and films. His ability to perform charms eventually earned him the title of Grand Sorcerer later in life. Dumbledore is perhaps the most adept wizard at casting the notably difficult Patronus charm. and is said to hold the power of choosing which type of Patronus he wants to cast, corporeal or incorporeal, which as far as we know, no other witch or wizard is able to do. Often, if you can think of something, there will be a charm for it, and if you're in search of how to perform said charm, then Dumbledore is your man. Another equally useful charm that Dumbledore is able to cast is the disillusionment charm, which causes the target to take on the exact colours and textures of their environment, much like a chameleon. The result is that you are basically invisible. Some other notable charms that Dumbledore is able to perform include Arresto Momentum, or the slowing charm, which slows the falling velocity of an object, as well as Pia Totem Locomotor, which brings inanimate or unmoving objects to life. Number 2. Transfiguration. Dumbledore is of course a master at transfiguration, which is defined as the art of changing the form or appearance of an object or person. Dumbledore was the professor of transfiguration at Hogwarts for a period of time, and in his schoolboy days exhibited extreme comprehension of transfiguration when taking his newts. Transfiguration is a particularly complex branch of magic that can go quite wrong if performed incorrectly. There are several branches of transfiguration, most notably cross-species transfiguration and human transfiguration. It has been heavily speculated that transfiguration is a more difficult skill to master than something like charms, despite charms having a wide range of functions. I think that the most impressive display of transfiguration that we've seen from Dumbledore was when, during his duel with Voldemort, he transfigured shards of glass shot at him into sand. Really impressive stuff. Number 1. Elemental magic. Over the course of the books and films, I think that one of Dumbledore's abilities really stands out. In both his duel against Voldemort in the Ministry Atrium and his encounter with the Inferi, we see Dumbledore continuously pull out all sorts of tricks from up his sleeve, and when I think about what Dumbledore's most powerful ability is, it's got to be his mastery of the elements. First, we've got Firestorm, otherwise known as Lasso of Flames, which is an incantation that produces a large ring of fire from the caster's wand. When the caster moves, the ring of fire moves with them, which will effectively ward off anyone trying to hurt them. While the ring of fire circles them, the caster also holds the ability to shoot individual jets or balls of flames at their opponents. This ability pairs well with Partis Temporis, which allows a gap in the flames for the caster to safely pass through. Dumbledore used this spell to ward off the masses of Inferi who were guarding the Horcrux. Even in his weakened state, this spell proved to be more than enough to serve its purpose. Another good example of Dumbledore's mastery of the elements was his use of water. In his duel against Voldemort in the Ministry Atrium, Dumbledore at one point produces some sort of hydrokinetic spell, and it's clearly magic unlike anything we've seen before. I think that what we witness in the books and films really only scratch the surface of Dumbledore's power, but from what I've seen, these seem to be the most powerful. What do you guys think? Do you agree with this list? Is there something that I've missed? If so, please let me know down in the comment section below. Until next time, you're a wizard, Harry.